So here is another example of a plane curve. When I say plane, I mean P-L-A-N-E, that this curve lives in the two-dimensional XY plane. And each of its segments here looks like something that we could do calculus with. In fact, this curve is built up out of lots of little pieces. So here is a function. The formula of this function is 3 times the square root of minus the square of x divided by 7 plus 1. Here is another curve. It satisfies the vertical line test. The formula for this curve is, well, it's minus the formula for the curve I just mentioned 5 seconds ago. And again, we could do derivatives, we can do arc length, we can do tangent lines, all of that good stuff. So maybe one strategy for taking a plane curve, which is not the graph of a function, would be to break it down into little parts, each of which is the graph of a function. So here's sort of like the bottom of the wings and the tail from that picture. And it's got a nice formula, right? This isn't such a bad formula. I see some absolute values, I see some squaring, I see a square root. All of those things are things I know how to differentiate. All of those things are things I know how to integrate. It's not looking too bad. Now, even though each of these pieces is itself the graph of a function, this requires me to be able to break down the shape that I want into pieces which are functions, or at least the graph of a function. So again, this example isn't too bad. It is too bad, but it's contrived. This is something that a person spent a lot of time messing with these formulas to make the shape here. But it's not clear to me how I would do this the other way around. How would I start with a curve that I want to study and then turn it into formulas which have derivatives? So here's one way to do it, but it doesn't seem to generalize very well. How would I take my previous graph and turn this into 3 different pieces? Well, I can think about where I would need to make those slices, right? I could cut here and here and say that in blue up at the top, I have the graph of a function. In pink in the middle here, I have the graph of a function. And maybe in red at the bottom, I have the graph of a function. But I would then need to find the formulas for those functions before I could do any calculus work. And maybe I could do that for this cubic. It doesn't look horribly difficult, maybe tedious, but not difficult. But I can imagine other curves that I don't want to do this for. Let's take an example of something a little bit worse.